The familiar scent of roasted turkey and simmering disappointment filled my parents' suburban home. It was Thanksgiving, that annual pilgrimage into the heart of family dynamics I'd learned to navigate with a practiced, weary smile. My name is Olivia, and this was how the holiday usually began, with a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. The dinner itself was a blur of forced pleasantries and Mom's overly enthusiastic attempts to prove we were a perfectly happy family. My dad, Richard, carved the turkey with his usual detached air, occasionally grunting an affirmative to Mom's chatter. Evelyn, my older sister, regaled everyone with tales of her latest influencer trip, her voice dripping with self-importance. Lucas, my younger brother, mostly just nodded along, his eyes glued to his phone. Then came the part one dreaded most, the post-dinner thankful for ritual, which inexplicably morphed into a gift exchange this year. "We have a little something for everyone," my mom, Catherine, announced, beaming as if she were bestowing royal favors. Evelyn unwrapped a chic, new Alara Paris handbag, its leather gleaming under the living room lights. "Oh, Mommy, Daddy, you shouldn't have," she squealed, though her eyes said she absolutely expected it. Lucas got the latest gaming console, his face lighting up with genuine delight. Then, Mom handed me a small, brightly wrapped package. "And for you, Olivia dear." Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a garishly patterned scarf and a cheap-looking mug with a generic, "World's Best Daughter" slogan. A heavy silence fell, broken only by Evelyn's poorly concealed snicker. I felt the familiar flush creep up my neck, a bitter cocktail of humiliation and anger. "Oh, Olivia, you're always so practical," Mom said quickly, her smile faltering slightly. "We thought you'd appreciate something useful." "Useful for what?" "Polishing the trophies of my siblings' blatant favoritism?" Dad just cleared his throat and picked up the remote, signaling the end of that particular ordeal. I forced a smile that felt like cracking plaster. "Thank you. It's thoughtful." Later, I retreated to the guest room, the cheap mug feeling heavy in my hand like a stone of resentment. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Chloe, my best friend from Northwood State University and now a colleague at Innovatech Solutions. "Survived Thanksgiving dinner yet? Or has Hurricane Evelyn made landfall?" I typed back, a grimace twisting my lips. "The annual Richards Family Favoritism Show just concluded. Guess who won the booby prize again?" Chloe's reply was instant. "Ugh. Olivia. I'm so sorry. Don't let them get to you. You've got that huge international conference presentation next week, right? Focus on that. Show them all what you're made of." She was right. The upcoming presentation for Innovatech Solutions was my main focus. It was a major opportunity, a chance to pitch a project I'd poured months of my life into. If I could nail this, it could lead to a significant promotion, maybe even to a senior project manager role or something bigger. My career was my escape, my proof that I was more than the sum of their low expectations. I took a deep breath, pushing aside the image of Evelyn's smug face and Mom's oblivious cheer. The shared study downstairs, usually quiet, would be my command center for the next few days. I spread my notes across the old oak desk, the familiar weight of my laptop a comforting presence. This presentation had to be perfect. My future at Innovatech depended on it. The next morning, I was deep into refining my slides when Evelyn sauntered in, already dressed in some ridiculously expensive athleisure wear. "Still slaving away, Olivia?" she asked, her voice laced with that familiar condescending sweetness. "Some of us have actual work to do, Evelyn," I replied without looking up. "Oh, I'm working," she chirped, setting up her phone on a small tripod. "My ConnectSphere followers are dying for a Thanksgiving weekend workout routine." For the next hour, the study was filled with her breathless instructions and the thud of her movements, punctuated by saccharine encouragement to her Sphere fam. It was incredibly distracting. "Could you possibly be a little quieter?" I finally asked, my patience wearing thin. Evelyn paused, feigning surprise. "Am I bothering you, sweetie? I'm just trying to inspire people to live their best lives." Her best life apparently involved making mine as difficult as possible. Later, as I was trying to connect to a crucial video call with Marcus, my boss, to go over some final points, the Wi-Fi suddenly dropped. "Ugh. This internet is so unreliable," Evelyn exclaimed from the other side of the room, where she was fiddling with the router. "I just reset it, maybe that will help." My screen went black. The call with Marcus disconnected. Frustration simmered beneath my skin. Evelyn, I was in the middle of an important call. Oops, sorry, she said, not sounding sorry at all. Just trying to be helpful. Her idea of a helpful was a peculiar brand of sabotage I'd become all too familiar with over the years. I managed to reschedule the call with Marcus, explaining away the technical difficulties. He was understanding, as always. Just make sure everything's smooth for the actual conference, Olivia, he'd said. This is a big one for you, and for Innovatech. The pressure was immense, and Evelyn's antics were making it 1,000 times worse. It felt like she was deliberately trying to throw me off balance. I pushed the thought away, attributing it to my heightened stress levels. She couldn't possibly be that malicious, could she? The memory of countless accidents from our childhood, my science projects mysteriously broken. My favorite toys vanishing, whispered a cynical yes. I worked late into the night, fueled by coffee and a growing sense of unease. Every creak of the old house, every distant laugh from Evelyn's room, felt like a prelude to some new, petty disruption. The fluorescent light of the study buzzed overhead, a constant, irritating hum that mirrored the tension coiling inside me. Game on, dear family, I thought grimly, saving my presentation to my trusted USB drive for the 10th time. Game absolutely on. My phone exploded with ConnectSphere notifications around 10 a.m. the next day. Tags from Evelyn. Dozens of perfectly curated photos from her spontaneous morning hike to some picturesque local spot. Everyone smiling, her, Lucas, even mom and dad roped into her content creation. Photos I wasn't in because nobody bothered to tell me they were going, assuming I'd be too busy working. Oh my god, I muttered, scrolling through the glossy images of their manufactured joy. We tried calling you, Evelyn's voice dripped fake concern when I finally emerged from the study for a coffee refill. She was lounging on the sofa, editing photos on her tablet. You must have had your phone on silent. We even knocked on your study door. But no, you didn't. I cut her off, my voice flat. I was awake at 6 a.m. I would have heard a knock. Lucas, perched nearby, looked up from his phone. Chill, Olivia. It's Thanksgiving weekend. Nobody wants to hang out with someone who's just working all the time, you know? His words, parroting Evelyn's sentiment, stung more than I cared to admit. I noticed he was diligently liking all of Evelyn's posts, especially the ones where she'd subtly framed me as the antisocial workaholic. In her captions, some people just don't know how to relax and enjoy family time, one caption read, under a photo of her beaming self. A little too on the nose, even for her. Olivia, mom called from the kitchen, her voice cheerful, oblivious. Could you help me with these pie dishes? I sighed, grateful for the momentary escape from the passive-aggressive battlefield of the living room. As I helped Mom, she said quietly, Evelyn was just telling me about this amazing new collaboration she's hoping to land with Atelier du Bois. It sounds very prestigious. Of course, it did. Everything Evelyn touched, or claimed to touch, was prestigious. I just nodded, not trusting myself to speak. My focus needed to be on my presentation for Innovatech Solutions, not on Evelyn's latest social media fantasy. The international conference was now less than 48 hours away. My entire career trajectory felt like it was riding on this one pitch. I retreated back to the study, the sanctuary that was rapidly becoming a pressure cooker. I spread out my notes, trying to recenter myself. The data had to be flawless, the arguments airtight. Marcus and Mr. Harrison were counting on me. Hours later, Chloe messaged me. How's the Fortress of Solitude holding up? Barely, I typed back. Evelyn's on a rampage of minor annoyances. And I think she's been messing with my USB drive when I'm not looking. I keep finding it unplugged or in a different spot. Chloe replied, classic Evelyn. Back up everything to the cloud, like yesterday. And maybe hide that USB somewhere she can't find it. Good idea, I responded, though a knot of dread tightened in my stomach. I'd been meticulous about saving, but the thought of Evelyn actively trying to sabotage me was chilling. That evening, Mom announced, family game night, with an almost manic cheerfulness. I tried to beg off, citing my workload, but she wouldn't hear of it. Just for an hour, Olivia. It's important for us to spend time together. The games were, predictably, another opportunity for Evelyn to shine and subtly belittle me. Lucas, as always, was her willing accomplice or, at best, a neutral bystander. Dad mostly just watched, a vague smile on his face. I endured it, my mind racing with presentation details and a growing premonition of disaster. Around 11 p.m., utterly exhausted, I finally excused myself and headed back to the study for one last check of my presentation files. The USB drive was in its usual spot next to my laptop. I inserted it, my heart pounding a little faster than usual. The file directory opened. I clicked on innovatech_global_strategy_final_final.pptx. An error message popped up. File is corrupted and cannot be opened. No, no, no. I whispered, my blood turning to ice. I tried again. Same message. I frantically tried opening the previous versions. Corrupted. All of them. The critical charts, the meticulously researched data, the narrative I'd spent weeks perfecting, all gone. Salt water hadn't destroyed it, but something just as corrosive had a deliberate, malicious intent. And I knew, with a certainty that made me sick to my stomach, who was responsible. Oh my goodness, Evelyn appeared in the doorway, a face mask still plastered to her face, her expression a perfect mask of theatrical shock. What happened, Olivia? You know exactly what happened? My voice was a low, shaking tremor of fury. She shrugged, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips. Computer problems? So unreliable, these things. Maybe you should have been more careful with your precious work stuff. Her smile was razor sharp. Oops. I stood there, shaking with a rage so profound it left me speechless, as she sauntered away, her light laughter echoing down the hallway. My presentation was tomorrow, the presentation that could make or break my career at Innovatech Solutions, the one I'd poured my soul into. My phone buzzed. It was a chat message from Chloe. Hey, you up? Just checking in before I crash. My fingers trembled as I typed. Evelyn. She corrupted my files. All of them. The presentation is tomorrow. Chloe's reply was immediate. What? Are you serious? That conniving little. Okay, don't panic, Olivia. Don't panic. Did you have any cloud backups at all? Even older versions? I racked my brain, a sliver of hope piercing through the despair. I think I synced an earlier draft to my Innovatech Cloud drive a few days ago, but it's not the final version. A lot of the key data isn't there. It's better than nothing. Chloe typed rapidly. Listen to me. I still have the license for that advanced data recovery software we used back at Northwood State, remember? For my senior thesis, I can try to remote into your laptop and run it on the USB. It's a long shot, but it's worth trying. I stared at her message, a flicker of desperate hope igniting within me. You'd do that, Chloe? Of course, I would. What are friends for? Now, send me your remote access details. We've got a long night ahead of us. The study, which had felt like a tomb moments before, suddenly felt less like a prison and more like a war room. If Evelyn wanted to play dirty, fine. But she'd forgotten something important. I didn't get where I am by letting people walk all over me. And I had Chloe, a friend who was a force of nature in her own right. I pulled up the half-finished draft from my Innovatech Cloud. My hands were still shaking, but not just from fear anymore. Pure, focused rage had replaced the initial panic, morphing into a steely determination. You should relax, Evelyn's voice, syrupy sweet, suddenly called from outside the closed study door. I hadn't heard her approach. It's so late. You'll make yourself sick working so hard on that little project of yours. I ignored her, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I coordinated with Chloe via chat. I'm just trying to help, Evelyn continued, her voice oozing false concern. You've always been so intense about work, Olivia. It's not healthy, you know. Maybe this is a sign you should focus more on family, on finding a nice man. The memory hit me like a physical blow, being 12, proudly showing mom my award-winning science project. The next morning, finding it accidentally smashed on the floor. Evelyn, all wide-eyed innocence, suggesting I should have been more careful with it, just like now. The pattern was sickeningly familiar. Remember when you told Dad I faked my grades on my Northwood State application? I finally called back, my voice tight. Or when you convinced mom I was out partying instead of studying for my finals, so they threatened to cut off my student loan cosign? Oh, Olivia, don't be so dramatic, Evelyn scoffed dismissively through the door. That's ancient history. You always blow things out of proportion. Go away, Evelyn. Excuse me? Go away. I yelled, louder than I intended. Some of us actually have to work for what we want in life instead of just coasting on mom and dad's money. There was a sharp intake of breath from the other side of the door, then silence. A moment later, I heard her footsteps retreating. The door to her room clicked shut down the hall. I let out a ragged breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Chloe's chat message popped up. Remote connection established. Starting scan on the USB now. Cross your fingers, Olivia. Fingers, toes, everything crossed, I typed back. Chloe, a true marketing specialist at Innovatech, also happened to be a low-key tech wizard. Your sister's quite something, Chloe messaged a few minutes later, amidst lines of diagnostic code she was pasting into our chat. She's been like this since we were kids, I replied, trying to piece together a missing graph from memory. Always had to be the star. Always had to win, no matter who she stepped on. And our parents just let her. Enabled her, more like, Chloe corrected. And Lucas just follows her lead. He used to be different, I typed, a pang of sadness hitting me. Before Evelyn got her hooks into him properly. He used to be my friend. Chloe sent a sympathetic emoji. Okay, good news and bad news. The file structure is a mess, looks like it was deliberately scrambled. But I think some of the raw data blocks for your charts and images might be recoverable. It's not the full presentation, but maybe enough building blocks? A surge of adrenaline shot through me. That's more than I had an hour ago. Thank you, Chloe. Seriously. I owe you big time. You owe me a fancy dinner when you get that promotion, she quipped. Now, let's get to work rebuilding this masterpiece. And so began the longest night of my life. Chloe painstakingly extracted fragments of data, while I, fueled by coffee and a burning sense of injustice, rebuilt slides, recrunched numbers, and rewrote key phrases from memory. The original presentation was ambitious, detailed, and polished. This new version, born from chaos and desperation, felt raw, urgent, and infused with a fighting spirit I didn't know I possessed. Evelyn's sabotage was meant to break me. Instead, it had forged something stronger. Around 3 a.m., Lucas appeared in the study doorway, looking sheepish and uncomfortable. Hey, Olivia. Save it, Lucas. I didn't look up from my screen, where Chloe was walking me through restoring a complex diagram. I know Evelyn put you up to whatever part you played in this. He shifted his weight, avoiding my gaze. Evelyn said it would just rattle you a little. She said you were getting too stressed and this would, like, force you to take a break. Rattle me? I finally looked at him, my eyes burning with exhaustion and fury. Force me to take a break by destroying weeks of my work? Do you have any idea what was on that USB, Lucas? My career. My future at Innovatech. What happened to you? I asked, my voice softer now, tinged with a genuine sorrow. You used to stand up for what was right. You changed first, he shot back, a flicker of resentment in his eyes. Always working, always too busy for family stuff. Always making us feel like we weren't good enough because we didn't go to some fancy state university on a scholarship. Evelyn says, Evelyn says, Evelyn says. I cut him off, my voice rising again. Try thinking for yourself sometime, Lucas. Is this really who you want to be? Her little puppet? He opened his mouth, then closed it, his face a mixture of anger and shame. He turned and left without another word. Chloe, who had been quietly listening via my open mic, whistled low. Wow. Your family's Thanksgiving drama is way more intense than anything on reality TV. I managed a weak laugh, then rubbed my tired eyes. Tell me about it. Okay, I think I've recovered all I can, Chloe said gently. The rest is up to you, Olivia. You've got this. By sunrise, a new presentation, battered but functional, was complete. It wasn't as polished as the original, but it was honest, and every point was now seared into my brain. I backed it up in 3 different cloud locations and emailed a copy to Chloe and my personal account. Never again would I be caught so unprepared. I headed to the guest bathroom to shower and change, passing Evelyn's room. Through the closed door, I could hear her on the phone, her voice bright and cheerful. "No, it's all handled, don't worry. She'll completely bomb that silly presentation, I'm sure of it. Then maybe she'll finally realize she needs to stop trying to prove something and just accept her place." A cold, hard smile touched my lips. Evelyn had always underestimated me, assuming I'd break easily, just like all those accidentally broken toys and projects from our childhood. But I wasn't that little girl anymore. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. "Ready to knock their socks off at the conference today, Olivia? The link goes live in 3 hours." I typed back, "They won't know what hit them, Marcus." As I straightened the collar of my blazer, the one I bought with my first bonus from Innovatech Solutions, I felt a surge of adrenaline. In a few hours, everything could change. Evelyn and Lucas thought they'd clipped my wings. They were about to learn I could soar even higher without their approval, perhaps even because of their opposition. "Sorry, I'm not feeling well," I texted the family group chat, declining Mom's offer of a big pre-conference breakfast. "Must be nerves." Evelyn replied instantly, "Poor thing. Maybe you should rest instead of doing that presentation if you're not up to it." I ignored her and locked myself in the study. The online conference platform loaded on my screen. Faces from Innovatech and other global tech firms began to appear in the virtual waiting room, board members, potential investors, and Marcus. All waiting to hear my pitch. "Whenever you're ready, Olivia," Mr. Harrison, the CEO of Innovatech Solutions, said, his image clear and authoritative. For the next hour, I owned that virtual room. My voice, initially a little shaky, grew stronger with each slide. The data, pieced back together with Chloe's help and my own frantic efforts, flowed logically. The passion I felt for the project, for Innovatech's potential, resonated in every word. When I finished, there was a moment of stunned silence from the virtual attendees. Then, Mr. Harrison finally spoke, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Impressive work, Olivia. Truly impressive. We'll be in touch very soon regarding the next steps for this initiative." I barely had time to breathe before my phone exploded with messages from Marcus. "Holy cow, Olivia. You absolutely crushed it. Mr. Harrison is ecstatic. The partners from the Singapore office are already talking about funding levels." I allowed myself one small, shaky victory fist pump before logging off. My family was gathered in the living room when I emerged, Evelyn holding court as always. "Oh, there she is," Mom waved, a little too brightly. "Feeling better, honey?" "Much better, thanks, Mom," I said, a genuine smile finally reaching my eyes. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "So, how did your little presentation go?" she asked, her tone dripping with feigned nonchalance. "It happened," I shrugged, suddenly feeling lightheaded with relief and exhaustion. Lucas fidgeted with his phone, avoiding my gaze. "Look, Olivia, about your USB drive," he began. "Ancient history, Lucas." I cut him off, using Evelyn's own dismissive words from the night before. My phone buzzed again. "Marcus, call me ASAP." Private line. I excused myself, my heart hammering against my ribs as I dialed Marcus from the relative quiet of the guest room. "They're offering you the directorship." Marcus burst out before I could even say hello. "Not just senior project manager. Mr. Harrison wants you to head the entire new global strategy department for Innovatech Solutions. Full package, significant raise, stock options, the works." I pressed a hand against the wall to steady myself, my knees suddenly weak. "Are you serious, Marcus?" "Dead serious," he boomed. "Mr. Harrison said your presentation was a game changer. He wants you to spearhead this initiative personally. And here's the kicker, remember that Azure Horizon Cruises account? The one we thought was a long shot? Your strategy just landed it for Innovatech. You'll be leading that engagement too." I glanced out the guest room window at the bland suburban street, a plan already forming. A future I hadn't dared to dream of just hours ago solidifying before my eyes. The Azure Horizon Cruises account. I breathed. The very same. "You start as soon as the paperwork is done. What do you say, Olivia?" I say yes. I was already mentally drafting my resignation from my old role and planning my move to a new apartment closer to Innovatech's main campus. And Marcus, thank you for everything. Thank yourself, Olivia. You earned this. Show them what you're made of. I hung up, a dazed smile on my face. My first call was to Chloe. Her shriek of delight nearly deafened me. I knew it. I knew you'd do it. We need to celebrate. Definitely, I laughed. But first, I need to find a new apartment. With this promotion, I can finally afford something decent, something that doesn't smell of my sister's smug satisfaction. Chloe chuckled. I'll start sending you listings. Though, you might want to see this first. She sent me a link to a news aggregator site. A small industry blog had already posted a brief about Innovatech Solutions landing a major new client, Azure Horizon Cruises. Thanks to a groundbreaking strategic proposal. My proposal. And then she sent me a screenshot. It was from Evelyn's private Connect Sphere story, clearly not meant for my eyes, probably shared with her inner circle. A picture of my USB drive, snapped carelessly on her vanity table, with the caption, "Oops. Guess Olivia's big career-making presentation hit a little snag. Karma family first priorities." The timestamp was from late last night, just before I discovered the corrupted files. My hands clenched into fists. The blatant, premeditated sabotage, the sheer arrogance of it. Can you send me that screenshot in high-res, Chloe? Chloe's reply was a devil emoji. Already done. Now, about that new apartment. I spent the afternoon researching neighborhoods and making calls to real estate agents. Every detail of my new life had to be a step up, a step away from the stifling atmosphere of my family home. Around dinner time, my phone buzzed with the family group chat. "Mom, celebratory dinner for Olivia tonight. Your father and I are so proud. Evelyn, wow, congrats, I guess. So, what exactly is this new job thingy?" "Lucas, cool." I replied with a simple, "Thanks. See you at 7. Then I called a high-end catering service and arranged for a lavish spread to be delivered to my parents' house, charging it to my soon-to-be significantly larger Innovatech expense account. As I got ready in the guest room one last time, I could hear Evelyn through the thin wall, talking loudly to someone on her phone. No, trust me, she totally lucked out. It was probably just some pity promotion. You should have seen her face this morning. She was a wreck. Finally, maybe she'll stop trying to compete with me all the time. I smiled at my reflection, adjusting the new designer dress I bought myself online during a coffee break, a dress that cost more than Evelyn's coveted Alara Paris bag. In a few hours, they'd learn just how wrong they were about luck. My phone lit up with a message from Chloe. "The catering is on its way. And I may have accidentally CC'd Mr. Harrison on an email chain discussing the initial recovery of your accidentally corrupted presentation files, mentioning your dedication in working all night to salvage it." The one where I also attached that very clear screenshot from Evelyn's Connect Sphere story? Perfect, I texted back. I took one last look around the cramped guest room that had been my reluctant sanctuary. By next month, I'd be looking out over the city from my own balcony. Sometimes karma needs a little help with its delivery service. I headed towards the dining room, my heels clicking confidently on the hardwood floor. Time to show my family exactly what their little career girl could do. I wore my new, understated but undeniably expensive dress to dinner, letting Evelyn bask in her temporary, ill-informed smugness. She was practically glowing, holding court at the table in a sparkly, slightly tacky outfit that screamed, "Look at me." Oh, and my collaboration with Atelier du Bois is basically a done deal, she was saying as the caterers began setting out an impressive array of dishes I'd ordered. "They're flying me to Paris next month for the campaign launch." "Which brand is that again, Evelyn?" I asked innocently, accepting a glass of champagne from the server. "Atelier du Bois," she preened. "Not that you'd know them, Olivia. They're very exclusive." I bit back a smile, thinking of the email I'd seen earlier from Innovatech's legal team regarding a potential IP infringement case against Atelier du Bois for copying a smaller designer's work, a scandal about to break. Their exclusivity might soon be of a different, less desirable kind. Speaking of careers, Mom turned to me, her eyes shining. "Your father and I are just so thrilled about your new director role at Innovatech. Before I could respond, Dad cleared his throat, a rare occurrence. Olivia, he began, looking directly at me, something he seldom did. Mr. Harrison from Innovatech called me personally this afternoon. The table fell silent. Evelyn's fork clattered against her plate. He wanted to express his profound admiration for your professionalism and resilience under what he termed extremely trying circumstances. My gaze flickered towards Evelyn, whose face had suddenly gone very still. He mentioned something about data sabotage and how you managed to deliver an outstanding presentation despite it. Dad continued, his voice firm. He also mentioned a rather distasteful social media post he was made aware of. Evelyn's face was rapidly losing its color. Dad, She started. Evelyn, Dad said, his tone uncharacteristically stern. We will discuss your conduct later. For now, we are celebrating Olivia's remarkable achievement. He raised his glass. To Olivia, Director of Global Strategy at Innovatech Solutions. And, as Mr. Harrison informed me, the architect of their new partnership with Azure Horizon Cruises. Mom's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. Lucas's jaw had literally dropped. Thank you, Dad, I said, my voice clear and steady. I trust the gourmet meal I ordered meets with everyone's approval? Evelyn's face had gone from shock to a pale, sickly green. You can't just. She sputtered. Actually, I can, Evelyn, I smiled sweetly. It's amazing what doors open when you focus on your own work instead of trying to undermine others. But my Atelier du Bois trip, she stammered, her voice rising in panic. That's my big break. Oh, about that, I paused, taking a delicate sip of champagne. You might want to check the news alerts for Atelier du Bois and intellectual property theft, thought. I hear their stock is about to take a rather nasty tumble. And their influencer collaborations? Probably on indefinite hold. As if on cue, Evelyn's phone, sitting beside her plate, began to ping relentlessly with notifications. Her subsequent shriek as she read the headlines confirmed my information. Mom finally found her voice. Olivia, honey, what's going on? Just a little career advancement, Mom, I said calmly. And a few timely truths coming to light. Nothing to worry about, unless you're an influencer who relies on brands with questionable ethics. I turned to Lucas. And Lucas, if you're serious about wanting a real job, I might know a few people at Innovatech looking for interns in the marketing department. If you're willing to start at the bottom and actually learn something, that is. He looked from me to Evelyn, then back to me, a flicker of something like hope in his eyes. I'd like that, Olivia. Good. After the caterers had cleared away the remnants of the surprisingly subdued celebratory dinner, and Evelyn had retreated to her room in a storm of tears and frantic phone calls, Mom and Dad approached me in the living room. They looked uncomfortable, a new expression for them where I was concerned. Olivia, Mom started, your father and I have been talking. We owe you an apology, Dad said, his voice quiet but firm. A very big one. We haven't always appreciated you, Olivia. We got so caught up in Evelyn's sparkle, I suppose. Mom's voice was thick with unshed tears. We didn't see how much effort you were putting in, how capable you are. Mr. Harrison's call was eye-opening. I studied their faces, the genuine regret, the awkward shame. It wasn't a complete absolution, not by a long shot, but it was a start. Maybe, I said, my voice softer than I intended. But it's going to take a lot more than one dinner to undo years of oversight. We understand, Dad nodded. We'll earn back your trust, Olivia. However long it takes. If you'll let us. I thought of my new apartment, my new role at Innovatech, the future stretching out before me. Bright and full of possibilities I had carved out for myself. We'll see, I said. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe, how's the fallout? I walked to the window, looking out at the quiet suburban night. The landscape is shifting, I texted back. The next morning, I packed my bags, the cheap mug and ugly scarf left conspicuously on the guest room dresser. As I was leaving, Lucas caught me at the door. He handed me a crumpled piece of paper. My resume, he said, his cheeks flushing. It's not much, but I'm serious about that internship. I took it, a small, genuine smile touching my lips. I'll pass it on, Lucas. And maybe we can grab coffee sometime? Just us? I'd like that, I said. Mom and Dad stood on the porch, their farewells more subdued, more thoughtful than I'd ever experienced. As I drove away from the house that had held so much frustration and so many small heartbreaks, I didn't feel triumph, not exactly. I felt lighter. The final scene wouldn't be fireworks over a cruise ship. It would be me, Olivia Richards, Director of Global Strategy at Innovatech Solutions, unlocking the door to my new apartment. Stepping into a life I had built with my own two hands, on my own terms. And that, I realized, was the best view of all. A few weeks later, settled into my new, light-filled apartment in the city, Chloe came over with takeout and a bottle of excellent champagne. To Olivia Richards, she toasted, her eyes sparkling, conqueror of corporate ladders and tamer of toxic families. I laughed, a genuine, unrestrained sound. Hardly a tamer, I said, more like a strategic retreater. Speaking of which, Chloe said, pulling out her phone, you will not believe Evelyn's latest ConnectSphere meltdown. Apparently, the Atelier du Bois scandal had hit hard, and several other collaborations she'd boasted about had mysteriously evaporated. Her follower count was plummeting. Karma's a patient beast, I murmured, sipping my champagne. My new office at Innovatech Solutions had a panoramic view of the city skyline. Marcus had been true to his word, giving me full autonomy over the Global Strategy Department and the Azure Horizon Cruises account. Work was challenging, exhilarating, and deeply fulfilling. One afternoon, Lucas called. He'd landed the internship at Innovatech, in a different department, on his own merit after my initial referral. It's hard, he admitted, but I'm actually learning stuff. And hey, thanks for not, rubbing it in about everything. Everyone deserves a chance to prove they can change, Lucas, I said. Mom and Dad called regularly. Our conversations were still a little stilted, a little careful, but the old dynamics were slowly, painstakingly being rewritten. They asked about my work, genuinely listened, and even started to tentatively acknowledge some of their past blind spots regarding Evelyn. Evelyn herself had gone quiet, her ConnectSphere presence a shadow of its former bombastic self. I heard through Lucas that she was considering going back to Westlake University to actually finish a degree. One evening, looking out at the glittering city from my office window, my phone buzzed. An alert from Tech Forward magazine. The headline read, Innovatech's new Global Strategy Director, Olivia Richards, on resilience, vision, and turning sabotage into success. They'd interviewed me for a feature on rising stars in the tech industry. I hadn't mentioned my family by name, of course, but the subtext of overcoming adversity was clear. I smiled. This wasn't about revenge. It was about rising so far above the petty dramas and ingrained dysfunctions that they simply couldn't touch me anymore. It was about building a life so full of purpose and joy that the shadows of the past faded in its light. The city lights twinkled back at me, like a million tiny affirmations. My story wasn't over. It was just beginning.